When I found out I was pregnant, I was devastated. I was desperate. I thought about my 2 older children. How was I going to explain this to them? Because I'd raised them to know that you get married and then you have a family. I was not married. I was a long ways away from family. I was part of a good church that I knew I would have support. But in my eyes, I was already judging myself. I was scared. And I didn't know who to turn to. I really didn't know. I was in a crisis. And I didn't want to turn to God because I'd been shunning Him. My heart had been so hardened that was really the last place I wanted to go. And so I was just in a really desperate, fearful spot in my life. I was raised in a godly home with loving parents, and I was taken to church from when I was a little bitty. Came to know the Lord at home with my parents when I was 8 years old. I knew God and I knew what was right, and my parents were very supportive, very encouraging, always loving. I'd been married for 14 years and went through a divorce. So I found myself a single mom with 2 older children. And once the divorce was final, I just decided to kind of shun God and live my life the way I wanted to. And for about a year, I lived a reckless, sinful lifestyle. One morning I woke up and I took a pregnancy test and found out I was now expecting a 3rd child, unmarried. There was a lady in my Sunday school class that I had become acquainted with, and I knew that she was involved in the Crisis Pregnancy Center downtown. And so she invited me down to the downtown Crisis Pregnancy Center, and we went down for a sonogram and some counseling. I was taken back for the sonogram, and even though I was only about 5 weeks pregnant, beating heartbeat, very rapid, healthy heartbeat of this baby I was carrying. My first response was not godly. I immediately began to cry and said, I don't want to be pregnant. This is not what I had in my plans for my family, for my children, for myself. But immediately, the women that were in the exam room began to counsel me and began to remind me of what I knew in my heart, but that each child is a gift from God. This was a baby. It was not a mass. Had a beating heart already, even at 5 weeks, and that there were options. And so we continued throughout this whole pregnancy to receive encouragement and support and counseling through the pregnancy center and their staff. And they just continued to point us to what God's word said about life, and that it was given by God and it would be taken by God. It was not for me to decide the days of this child, and that this baby had a purpose. God created this baby for a purpose. And about after a month of just those people just speaking God's word into me, God moved me and softened my heart past the choice of abortion. My son was born in October of 2011, and during my pregnancy, God also brought a godly man into my life who went through my pregnancy with me and encouraged me to carry this child. And in February of 2012, this young man who had never been married and no children asked me to be his wife, and godly accepted the responsibility to help raise my 3 children. And then God graciously blessed us with a child of our own. So we now have a family of 4, and you would never know that we are a blended family. God has healed a lot of the wounds, a lot of the hurt, and brought healing to our family. I would have never imagined that I would have found myself at a crisis pregnancy center. Raised in a Christian home, going to a good church, yet I found myself at the doorstep of a crisis pregnancy center with godly people, godly counselors that surrounded and loved us. My son is now 4 years old, and I look back and I still see, if it had not been for the center and the counseling that we received through the center staff, my son may not be here. Because of the impact that they have made, it is now our turn that we can give back. We see that this is a way that we can serve and give back to what God has so graciously given our family.